I'm very lean. I have one full-time employee, two part-time employees.
Hello and welcome to Beauty and the Biz, where we talk about the business and marketing side of plastic surgery. I'm your host, Catherine Maley, author of Your Aesthetic Practice, What Your Patients Are Saying, as well as consultant to plastic surgeons to get them more patients and more profits. Now, today's special guest is Dr. Faryan Jalalabadi, and he's a board-certified plastic surgeon practicing in Beverly Hills for the past 4 or 5 years. Now, Dr. Jalalabadi grew up in Houston, Texas, and received his medical degree at the University of Houston Medical School. He then completed his surgical training at Baylor College of Medicine and spent his final residency year under renowned Dr. Rod Rohrich, whom we all know. He then completed an elite fellowship from the University of Southern California's Marina Rocks Aesthetic Fellowship, and we'll talk more about that. He then went into private practice, built around a focus on facial aging. Dr. Jalalabadi, welcome to Beauty and the Biz podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
I just love your name. I struggle with it, but I love it. So tell me this, how important, you did a killer fellowship with Dr. Rod Rohrich, who's like the GOAT in Houston, and you're from Houston. So you were there, then you came out here and you hung around with some really big heavy hitters. So tell me what your fellowship was like and how important that was for you to enter the marketplace educated.
Yeah, I'm very blessed. I grew up in Houston, Texas, which has the biggest medical center in the world. My residency was Baylor College of Medicine, which is where the breast implant was invented. In my last year of residency, I was very interested in microsurgery and aesthetic surgery, and I knew I wanted to do a fellowship. So I applied to the I applied to one great aesthetic fellowship, which was the Los Angeles Marina Rocks Fellowship. And in my chief year of residency, we spent 2 months with Dr. Rod Rohrich, who has an exceptional fellowship of his own at DPSI, Dallas Plastic Surgery Institute. So I got to spend 2 years of a mini fellowship in my last year of residency. And then I came to California, to Los Angeles, and left the Texas heat. And I worked with some incredible surgeons. It was basically with Grant Stevens, who was like the tech guru of plastic surgery. He was every clinical trial for every device known to man in the aesthetic space was going through his Marina clinic. And so we got an incredible exposure to that side of the aesthetic industry. And then the other side was world-class surgeons head to toe, Dr. Gavami, Dr. Bantale, Dr. Ritu Chopra, Jubin Gabe, older surgeons, younger surgeons. It was amazing. People who were specialists of the nose, Jay Calvert, president of the Rhinoplasty Society. So and then having come into that fellowship, I came to this neighborhood where people think it's extremely competitive, and I mean it probably is, but it's like an academic position. So these esteemed surgeons who aren't even affiliated with the fellowship are so welcoming to having you in the operating room, because everyone kind of geeks out and nerds out on their techniques and loves to share. So Kami Parsa, Guy Masri, two of the world's greatest eyelid oculoplastic surgeons. I got to spend some time with these guys, and now they're all my friends and colleagues, and I can lean on them for their 20 years of experience as I grow my practice here in my 5th year. So
I hear this all the time in Beverly Hills. It seems like such a scary place. Yet you are the most collegiate group I've ever heard of. You're all on top of each other too, but you all seem to work well, and you're welcoming and you share ideas, and boy, that's the way to go. Congratulations. Did you know you were going to go to Beverly Hills, or how did you get from Houston to setting up shop far away?
Yeah, I went to undergrad in Austin. So I spent the entirety of my 31 years of the beginning of my life in Texas, and I had dreams to go to New York or Los Angeles. And as I got older, Los Angeles kept calling, and so it turned out I learned about this fellowship from a attending physician of mine in residency. I applied to it, and it's when I first heard Garth Fisher's name. I heard about these mysterious aesthetic surgeons, and I was like, well, this sounds like, I love the face. I love doing beautification and aging surgery. And, the classic way was to go do a fellowship in like hand surgery, build a hand practice, and then on the side, you start scaling your aesthetic practice. The world has changed. People have embraced aesthetic surgery so much that I thought it was best once I came to do this fellowship and I loved the work so much and I fell in love with facial aging. I was like, I'm all in on this. I don't want to go do a micro fellowship. I just want to open up shop and start, taking care of people who take care of themselves. We spent a lot of time doing reconstructive surgery, taking care of patients who really need help, gunshot wounds and clefts, and it was very rewarding work. But I just felt, to me, it was more rewarding to do this aesthetic work. And so I went all in and I just, joined a practice, a guy that does a lot of body surgery. And then I was doing most of the face surgery. And it was a great way to start in this ultra competitive neighborhood. But people are doing so much aesthetic surgery now, and I'm in the world hub of it. It's like the mecca of plastic surgery here in Los Angeles. They fly from all over the world. It imports more aesthetic work than anywhere on the planet. That, yes, we can be very collegiate with each other, and as long as there isn't, crazy ego or this and that, people play very nice in the sandbox, as they say, and it makes everyone better. It makes the surgeons better. It's good for the patients. There's constant advancement in the technique. In the last 5 years, since I did my first deep plane facelift, the amount of advancement that has come from the first facelift 100 years ago is incredible, just in the last 5-10 years. And so I'm blessed. I'm blessed to be in the hub of one of the great cities where that's kind of really being pushed forward, and having been a part of it and learning it at kind of an integral like sponge time in my life. It's like you just did all this training in residency, you understand surgery, you're like able to play the instrument, and now all of a sudden you have this new piece of music in front of you. It's like, all right, we'll go. You have 1 year, go master this, and then you're on your own.
Well, what's amazing is you specialized really early on. You trained to be a body guy, a face and body. You trained to be a plastic surgeon. And usually at that point now you have to do ER and you have to go on call and you're doing all the grunt work. And then eventually you say, wait a second, why am I being everything to everybody? It's not, I don't have a competitive edge doing that. So, but eventually you get there, you just jump right in. Like, when did you decide? You're in the middle of, completing residency and fellowship, and you decide, wait a second, I think I'm just going to go aging face. How did that happen so quickly?
I guess I'm blessed because, I did probably 300 rhinoplasties as a resident and 150 facelifts. But I don't do that many rhinoplasties anymore. I just feel like there's work that I really love to do, and that I know that I do better than, the top 0.1% in the world. And I just happened to gravitate toward that work, and the demand in my practice was enough for me to have the luxury of saying, I don't want to do this. I still do body surgery. It's probably 10% of my practice. I do very good liposuction. I love fat is like my favorite tissue in the body. So I love doing fat transfers to the buttock and the breast especially. But a huge part of my practice, people flying from all over the world is fat grafting to the face because it's hot right now. Fillers are kind of on the demise because of how they age and interact with other tissue planes, and fat can just be done better. It's better for the quality of your face. And I guess there aren't that many people doing it awake. And I kind of marketed this early on, and it caught fire. You show some good before and afters, and all of a sudden I got calls from Paris and London and Pakistan, people coming from all over the world for some fat grafting.
Wait, that's really interesting. You're doing fat grafting in-house under local?
Under local. Maybe a little
Yeah,
Xanax, maybe a little Oxy, but some people want absolutely nothing. They just want the lidocaine.
But you're talking straight to a big majority of the public. Nowadays, they're sophisticated enough, and if they can get something done to them, that's like, God, if they could get away with fat grafting local versus deep plane general, that's going to be the downtime of a lot of downtime. Boy, you must have that's a really good niche market there.
It's amazing. It's been wonderful. It's a huge part of the reason that I was able to start practice so early on my own, and, in I guess what you call the most competitive space on the planet.
Yeah. Well, when I looked at your website, it definitely, like, when you look at it, it looks like you're doing facial aging, but then you had like a little injectable, but then you also have wellness services. So what are you trying to accomplish here? What are you doing?
Yeah, look, I want to do what I love to do and help people doing it. That's really what That's my purpose on this planet. And that's another thing early in practice. A lot of you talk to some of the greatest facelift surgeons of all time, and they'll tell you, oh, they spent their first whatever, however many years doing so many injectables. They just did injectables, 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 for better, for worse, but they were doing injectables. And it's a very good way for a young surgeon to tap into the facial aging world, because you have microneedling, you have Botox, you have lasers, you have some filler, you have PRP, you have all these tools, and anything that is healthy for the face, in my opinion, that slows down or reverses facial aging, I am game. I am building a place for my patients where anything that slows down aging and makes you look and feel younger, I'm interested in. So that is where the longevity side, the wellness side of the practice comes in. It's something that I've been studying for the last 5 years, that I'm very curious about. I do it on myself. People think I'm 28 years old. I'm a decade older than that. And so it's amazing. It's good and it's bad. They're like, you look too young to do a facelift, but those days are a bit behind me now, thanks to lots of before and afters that you get to share and things like that. But for a young physician or surgeon or anyone, doing good injectable work converts into. I had a patient that did like 3 microneedling sessions with me, and a year later she booked eyelid surgery and fat grafting. So it converted from microneedling to surgery, which is great. And they build trust, they hear you speak, they stay educated, and it converts to a bigger procedure. And whatever, business aside, you did a solid for this person.
For sure. I noticed you have a gorgeous view there. It looks like you're on the 12th floor of, it's a big popular building there. So you guys don't have the luxury of, buying buildings in the middle of Beverly Hills. So how many surgeons are in your building?
Oh my God, there's dozens. There's dozens. There's 12 floors. I'm on the 11th. On my floor, there are 4 other plastic surgeons. Yeah, there's 4 other plastic surgeons just on my floor, and there's 12 floors. So you do the math.
And some of them have really big names. You're not intimidated by that? No?
No, actually, I learned this from my good friend and mentor and colleague, Dr. Ben Talay. He said,
Yes.
there is no competition.
Yep.
The only competition is yourself. And that was a very important lesson I learned, because he was right. If you're doing good work, you know, and I guess this part I may be adding on, if you sell yourself, I shouldn't say sell, if you present yourself in the most authentic way that is not, crazy, that people can actually connect with, you will bring in business from all over. And sometimes it takes time. I have a friend who is my age, and he does not have a big social media following, but he's been in Los Angeles for 15 years. It's amazing comparing our practices. He gets a fair number of word of mouth referrals, even being in practice for about 4 years. He gets a ton, and those people, they really book like this, because when it's word of mouth, it's like dating. It's like being referred, a friend who is vouching for you. It's like, oh, I believe in this person, so you should. So they really have a sense of trust. Social media is it's a little less, they saw you on a screen, they hear you talking, yeah, they feel good, but still maybe their friend hasn't vouched for you. So it's definitely not as high of a conversion rate as word of mouth, but it brings in so many consults. It can bring in so many consults. So social media is a big player in early success. That when I first moved here, they would say, some of the older surgeons would say, no matter what, it takes 10 years to make it.
That's what I was taught.
Not true anymore.
Yeah. You don't have 10 years anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. We got to get it. We got to get the rise and demise.
Yeah. So do you have a surgery center within that building, or do you have to transfer?
So my surgery center that I use, I'm affiliated with multiple surgery centers, but I use one main one, and it is just across the street, right in that building, right down there. So yeah, so I just walk across the back alley, and I'm in my surgery center. I don't know that I'll ever own a surgery center. I don't know. One of my good friends, Richard Zumalin, he's an exceptional rhinoplasty surgeon. He stresses the live lean. As a surgeon, you can rack up so many expenses, and if you want to spend a few months away one summer, later in your life, you're tied to an operation that is constantly draining money. So it's nice to live lean. I have a very trusty surgical staff. It's a wonderfully run surgery center that's been in business for probably 25 years now, owned by three very veteran anesthesiologists and a urologist who is also a plastic surgeon. So they can do the business for now. Maybe one day, they brought up some idea of buying it from them, and maybe down the road. But better to buy buildings.
Right. Um, the regulations also in California are brutal. I had somebody on the podcast, and she timed it where she was doing a build out, and she had a lease. And you know how you have to overlap that. She couldn't handle the expense of paying both rents. And sure enough, the permits were delayed, and had to hustle. Like for 6 months, she was out. She was like a homeless surgeon, and she had to borrow space from someone else. And it is so tricky down there.
It's crazy.
But,
I see my friends in Houston. One of my colleagues who was in residency with me, she was a year ahead of me, Christy Hamilton. She just built an amazing warehouse in the middle of a very pristine location in Houston. Okay, and she owns the spot. This is a beautiful office that I'm blessed with. But any money goes into this is owned by the building. So
one way. Yep.
So I see some of these plastic surgeons with these exceptional, probably $2 million build outs, of these spaces. And I'm just like, do you own the building? Because the answer is probably not.
Hello, it's Catherine with a quick announcement. My new book, Beauty in the Biz, the Plastic Surgery Practice Growth Playbook, is at the printer. Now, it's based on 175 interviews with top plastic surgeons across the country, what they're doing differently to convert more, retain more, and profit more. You can pre-order a copy of the book at beautyandthebizbook.com. Now, back to the show. Houston's known for just doing everything big, and so many have built the Taj Mahal over there. And but you can get a lot more for your money too over there. So there's a give and take for everything. And I say, have an easy commute and have an easy way to get to your surgery center, and you're already in good shape. How about that?
Amen.
Yeah. So let's talk about staff, because that can typically be the tricky part, especially when you're a surgeon. You didn't do the business and marketing side unless you had really killer fellowships. Like Grant Stevens had a huge staff. So did you learn a lot from watching the other surgeons? How do they handle them? How do they hire? How do they motivate? Was that helpful to you?
It was incredible. Yeah. It was incredible. That fellowship on so many levels was so good because it wasn't as big a beatdown as residency was, where you're just like drowning in taking care of patients and trying to learn how to do surgery. It was more of like, okay, here is the landscape of aesthetic medicine. Here are the different type of surgeons, and here's how they run. Some of them have 20 staff. Some of them have 3 staff, and you can see as much as you want to see. You can see the numbers, you can see the dynamic in the office, and all the meanwhile you're still learning surgery and doing surgery. That was probably the best part of that fellowship, was the fellow clinic of doing your own cases, observed or not observed or whatever. But yes, and then I went to another practice, and that was yet another tap into how do you run a practice? How do you not run a practice? There's so, and that's like one of the biggest things I've taken with me in training is how learn what not to do and avoid that at all costs.
So what did you end up with your own staff? How big did you go or stay small?
Yeah, I'm very lean. I have 1 full-time employee, 2 part-time employees. I know all 3 of them very well. My full-time employee is my practice manager and coordinator, who was my coordinator at the other practice that I joined. So she came with me. It was really beautiful. So I trust her. There's loyalty. She works extremely hard, and that's probably the hardest thing in business, is to find good staff, because it's just human beings. We're deeply flawed individuals, and to do something, go to work every day, it's like going to battle. Something sure to arise, but knock on wood, everything is very smooth. And my part-time employees were actually people I also knew from the other practice, who it all just happened. The timing of the universe all happened just truly in a magical way. Getting the office space at the perfect time, because finding an office in Beverly Hills, you want to talk about staff. It is like all 1980s dental offices in like old creaky buildings.
Nice.
And I'm like in a premier building with like a fresh build. It's really some things, some things you can plan for and other things you just sometimes get lucky. But Grant had a funny saying. It was like prior preparation precludes something, poor performance or luck or something like that. That was one of his. Um, so yeah, the staff I know, I trust. Everyone believes in me. Everyone, I feel like that's a very important thing. They have to care about your purpose because it's the surgeon's practice. And at the end of the day, it's all patient care. So if they are invested in the patients and in you and your growth and all like that, you're sure to have, a good time with everyone.
Right. So to switch gears a little bit, I am watching you younger surgeons, and you seem to be more entrepreneurial than most. And like I noticed, you have like products online. You have an Amazon link with products, so I assume you're an affiliate with them. Is it a good little profit center to hang around with some of the companies, help them promote some products, or what? How is it helping you?
It probably is. It's a double-edged sword. Okay, I think seeing a little bit of money come into the bank from things that you basically, money while you sleep, as they call it. Although sometimes you have to post things to attract more, which is probably I'm not seeing as much money as I would like to see while I'm sleeping. It's a double-edged sword. As a surgeon and a physician, I and just a personal thing, I do not love touting or adding to the consumerism, pandemic that we are currently living through. However, that being said, if there is a good product that you believe in that helps people, which there are a few that I know, I'm happy to share that product with the now basically the most popular way of advertising, which is influencing, right? So if you have followers on social platforms, that's basically the best way to get a product out there to human beings these days. So if you know a good product and you want to make some money from shouting them out, then great, that's amazing. I grow weary. You see a lot of dermatologists that their face gets on all these advertisements, and they really stand behind certain products. And I just worry about they didn't create that product. They're working with a company that is having them sell that product. So if they know the ins and outs of the product and they truly believe it, honestly, bravo to them. But just heed caution, I guess, because your reputation and your words as a doctor are more important than the passive income while you're sleeping.
Yeah. I do recommend, though, if you are going to partner with somebody, I would go with the deep pockets, the kind that have the PR departments that can help you grow your name, because that would be, to me, that would be the bigger advantage. Can they help you build your practice versus just give you a couple dollars to, tote their stuff? Um, yeah, would you say it's a good strategy for
It
you
could
to?
be. It could be. It's like private equity or like fundraising for starting a practice, which a lot of people need. If you're going straight into practice, say you're a resident and now residents are building their social following, right? And say you want to start in private practice, you don't want to go work with anyone, and you're ready to rock, but you don't have the funding. It's really hard to get a bank loan when you don't have anything to show or any assets. And sometimes a lot of these people in residency they just have debt. And I heard the tales of they used to give doctors big loans and this and that. I don't think it works that way anymore. I think you have to put something down or like a home or something down, which I don't know if the residents have because we were getting paid for sure less than minimum wage based on the hours that we were working. I don't know if that's legal or not to say, but anyways, yeah, so if you can get some funding from these deep pocketed companies, hopefully not, the root of evil companies, then great. Take the money, build your practice, and keep making money from them. Why not?
I mean, I have several examples where it really helped them bridge the part where they're brand new, trying to find their footing. And then when they finally found it, then they broke away from that kind of thing and just focused on their own practice. But usually there's a bridge there between the time you
Yeah.
start and the time you actually pull this off, And like we were talking about, I was always told it takes 10 years to grow a practice. And I think, are you out of your mind? You guys don't have 10 years
I
anymore.
know that's crazy. We start with like we were nearly 40. You want to waste 10 years to make some money?
Oh, wow. So what would you say was the biggest challenge of going solo?
um, the biggest challenge going solo is scaling your clinical practice while opening a business at the same time. That is I did it. And like, going back on it, it doesn't feel like it was that much, but it is a lot that happens. It has a lot that happens. It can be very stressful. I see some of my colleagues doing the same. It can be very stressful.
How about a big mistake that you made that others could learn from, which they probably won't. Everyone has to make their own mistakes, but is there one that you care to share?
I think I should have started practice on my own earlier.
Oh,
Uh,
no kidding. Yeah.
yeah, I think just sign up for a shorter, if you're going to take on, an associate role or an employment role, in today's environment in aesthetics, with the ability, if you truly believe in yourself and you're well trained, um, with social media, you can, you know, branch off early, within a year or two.
I will say no one ever regretted it, but they have definitely said to me, I regretted not doing it sooner. You know,
Yeah.
I should have let go sooner. Any growth plans, or are you going to keep it light?
I would love to create something that the entire world can benefit from, without my hands.
Well, yeah, we all want to do that. I haven't thought of it yet. Yeah. Do you have any ideas for that?
I do. It's in the longevity space, and I can't share too many details yet, but hopefully, I'm gonna unravel it. I basically already do this partly in my own practice. I'm just going to utilize a very, utilizing AI and technology and electronic platforms to make it very easy for people to just stay the healthiest versions of themselves.
Well, congratulations. AI is definitely changing the world. Sounds like you're on board. I can't imagine not being on board. It's gonna change everything about how we do things, how everything. So, congratulations. I hope you hurry up and get there because there are 400,000 other people trying to do what you're doing. Yeah. I'm just waiting for something to hit. Like I have a problem, and and a lot of people have that problem. I haven't figured that out yet.
No, AI is wonderful. In New York just banned like medical advice, but it's all open source, so there won't be. It's going to be very hard to suppress anything like that. And I will tell you, just from the last whatever year or two of using even any AI platform, you have any weird medical ailment, and now today, there's been a huge rise in functional medicine in America, because Western, I loved being a doctor. It's very sad to see what's happened to the medical system, and the payouts, and the hospitals almost went bankrupt when they stopped elective or non-urgent procedures in COVID. They almost all went bankrupt in 3 months. It just shows you that the system is dependent on people being sick. And so I think the motivation for a lot of people in the industry to keep people extremely healthy is probably not there. And so with AI, with these little like weird illnesses that are happening, and autoimmune stuff and things that don't have great cures right now, I can at least give maybe some semblance of a plan and hope, and some improvement in people's struggles. And even if it's not weird little things like that, just basic wellness in the United States, it's like you got to play defense against so much because of the way our culture and our agriculture and our system and everything is built. It's all built around convenience. Even the clothes you wear now, they're like, oh my God, you have your polyester on your genitals, and like, this is terrible. And it's like, oh my God, where are we living?
I must say, Chat GTP is my best friend. It's opened at all times, and anytime I have a thought about a medical thing, it's handled all of it. I'm not, although I can see a hypochondriac going overboard on
Yeah,
that.
of course. There
But
must be some rails, to boundaries for it
right,
to not
yeah.
make that worse.
Well, I'm just like, even like healthy eating. we're so aware now of all the crap we've been eating. And I'm the first one, like, I can't live without potato chips. And apparently, they're going to kill me. But anyway, I just think AI is the greatest
No, you should just air fry a potato, my girl. Just slice it real thin and put some olive oil and put it in the air fryer. You're fine.
the whole point is the greasy, salty part. I
Ah.
love it. Love, love, love. Okay, let's move on to marketing, because this thing about being in Beverly Hills, I don't think you can be a jack of all trades in Beverly Hills. And I think you figured that out already. You have to niche it because, like, I love the idea that you took fat grafting and awake, put those two together, and now you have catered to this market that, gosh, people who have already had a facelift that don't want another one yet, those who want a facelift but are too scared, but they're willing to do that. Like, you grab a whole group of people, and it's not just age, it's preference, and the fear factor and all that. Was that on purpose? And was that a good idea to do it for Beverly Hills?
You know, I don't even know. I don't even know how it happened, honestly. I just started to dislike filler. I used filler in the mid face very early on in my practice, and I just didn't like how it looked. And I've looked at so many people's faces at this point now that I unfortunately am cursed or blessed with the ability to just see when the underlying tissue is not biologically sound. And so it started bothering me. And so I stopped doing mid-face filler, and instead I used some fat. And I don't think I'd ever seen anyone do it awake. I just said I could do it. I know how. I did plenty of facial lacerations in the emergency room awake, at Baylor College of Medicine, where they beat it into you for good reason, and so I learned how to properly numb faces, and then I knew how to do really good liposuction and properly numb the body. And yeah, I'm glad I'm also trained in body surgery. And so with that, I was able to just harvest some simple fat in a syringe and a piece of telfa, and then use it as like the world's greatest filler in the face.
So who's your target market?
Everybody.
Yeah.
It's true. Think about filler, right? There's like in the United States, there's like 6 million filler injections done a year because volume loss is one of the main pillars of facial aging. There's three main pillars, and so that's like the middle one. And so it's a very impactful corrective treatment, adding volume to people's faces, which is why filler was so popular. It was, people were erasing lines of laxity by filling their face. But then you noticed that you needed to use a significant amount of filler to achieve that. Then they start overfilling. Now you've congested your lymphatics. It's puffy. You can see the filler through your tissue. It's a little, blue, and your face starts to look like an ocean or a cloud. And so, with that, it's like anyone in their late 20s to like, I don't know, 65, 70 even, you can do fat on pretty much anyone. Now, it comes a point where it's like, look, you really just need a facelift, right? Like, this fat grafting is going to be like a drop in the bucket of a treatment for your facial aging. And people, when they hear that and they trust you and you show them good work, it converts to a facelift.
Right. What about patient attraction? It sounds like you're busy. How did you get busy? What marketing channels did you use? Which ones worked and then which ones didn't?
Yeah, I used none of the old school ones. I didn't have a real self. My website probably had no SEOs, you know, and I just used Instagram. And then eventually that bled over into TikTok. And you just show some good work. Honestly, one of the first things that brought patients in was literally just speaking about aging. I did these walk and talk videos about anti-aging tip number, blah blah blah, and it was about things that people could do at home without the use of my hands. And it
Mm.
was like sauning, sleeping, avoiding sugar, and good posture and things like that. And people loved the message. They felt like it established a sense of trust in this person, that he's not trying to sell me something. And then you follow it up with some good before and afters and maybe some education on, a certain surgical technique. And then there you go.
So I noticed you have 150,000 Instagram followers and 71,000 TikTok. are you literally living off of social media for your patient attraction?
I'm so glad that I'm not living off of social media. Listen, social media is is an amazing tool, but also I do not love being on my phone. I really do not. I do not think that we're meant to do that. I love being in nature. I love being very present. I love listening to people. I love things that put me in a flow state for hours. Chess, piano, surgery, and the phone is extremely distracting from that. However, it is amazing that you can, film yourself talking for a minute and upload it, onto some platform. Then all of a sudden you have 2 million views, and you have, 30 people inquiring about blepharoplasty or something. And it's really amazing for business. So, like I said at the beginning, it lends itself to a very high volume of inquiries. Okay. But then most people can't handle Beverly Hills pricing. So then it leads to a lot, but less consults. And then it's about the whole converting a consult to surgery, which again, word of mouth is king always. And so, growing a word of mouth practice, especially for people who are staying in the town of their training or that they grew up in or have a network, it is invaluable. Knowing other doctors who refer, knowing friends, even just going out. I don't know if it was on your podcast. I remember Grant Stevens hearing him say he would go out and at night to dinners and hand out business cards, and that was his form of marketing back in the day. And I still know I do it sometimes, but I have friends who do it better than I do. I like my 8 hours of sleep and watching the sunsets. And
But back to social media, somebody has to. You can shoot the film, but somebody's got to edit it and
I was doing it.
do the
I
math.
did it for years. And I enjoyed doing it. I took a film editing class in high school, and
Oh, nice.
it was all coming back.
That
Uh,
came in handy.
it's
Yeah.
all artistry. Plastic surgery is like an elite form of artistry in medicine, from photography to videography to the creativity behind, whatever you're trying to capture, to the actual plastic surgery work itself is like the ultimate art. Um, so, and unfortunately, I don't think a lot of surgeons realize that because their photography is like, what am I looking at? It's like this like 1970s overexposed medical textbook, unfortunately. And I was blessed. I was gifted a Nikon camera. Actually, it's right here. This was this was a gift from the chairman of Methodist Hospital and
Nice.
the president of the American Board of Plastic Surgery, Jeff Friedman. Thank you, Jeff. I still use this camera, and it's enabled me to take some amazing artistry before and afters of all the work that we spent all this time learning to do.
So let's talk about that for a second because plastic surgeons can go either way. Some of them have killer galleries where I don't know how they've done it, but they manage to have an awful lot of before and afters of body and face. Some say I can't get them to do anything. The patients will not do that. Where are you at with the before and afters and the reviews, and how are you getting the consent? Any tips?
Yeah, this is a topic amongst all surgeons of all ages and years of experience. Um, I think that so I very much struggle to get patients to allow me to share before and afters on social media. Pretty much every patient will allow me to share in the office. Okay, so in a consult, the before and afters are being shown. So that's amazing. I think that's where it matters most because they're zooming, they're seeing a high profile, you're talking them through the changes. So having that is amazing. Now, if I could get more patients to share before and afters online, that would be exceptional. But I'm not very pushy. You know, I also love the mystique of plastic surgery. I really do. I think it's great that these celebrities are coming out and showing the before and afters. I think it's cool, but at the same time, there is this beautiful mystery and elegance to not knowing. I think there's some old school facelift surgeons who have literally zero posted before and afters, and they were like regarded as some of the greats, which is fascinating how one is able to do that.
But no one's going to come across the country or across the world without seeing your work.
In this day and age, I 100% agree. So I think it's very
Yeah,
important that you're able to showcase
I think you need
really
to
high
show
quality
it.
work. It's absolutely necessary.
Yeah. So tell me a crazy patient or staff story.
Let's see. Do I have a good one? Okay, I'll tell you one. Early in my first year, I had a uh, somewhat celebrity patient in my first year come and want an upper bleph from me, which, an upper bleph is a fairly straightforward, not so highly complex operation. And however, I could recognize that this patient needed some volume augmentation of their upper eyelid, or else they were going to look very hollow or with the eyelid skin removed. This patient convinced me that they wanted to look hollow, and they showed me some photos where I was like, okay, well, yeah, they are hollow in that, and so I obliged and I did the operation. The patient then had a complete meltdown. Well, first of all, I did the operation awake. Okay. And this patient liked music that I really liked. And for whatever reason during the operation, they asked to listen to Taylor Swift, which nothing against Taylor Swift, but like that's not the kind of music I listen to. So, and music in surgery, is a very sacred thing to the surgeon because it contributes to their flow state and everything that they're doing. So I'm sitting here not having a great time listening to Taylor Swift and doing this operation, and the patient keeps telling me to be super aggressive, super aggressive. Not that I'm listening to her at this point, but that's how pushy she all of a sudden became. So we do the operation. Day two, okay, I get a message from my office gets a message from the patient that she's gone to see another surgeon, and that surgeon has told her that I gave her an A-frame deformity, okay, and ptosis. I caused two problems, okay, and I'm like, okay, it's post-op day two. This patient is banged up and bruised, and this other Beverly Hills surgeon has the audacity to bring her in, A, and B, tell her that I caused two diagnosable problems. And I was like, okay, you know, take it easy. Like, let's see this thing heal. Sure enough, as it started healing, yes, it was hollow. It was really hollow. And I didn't think it looked good, and neither did she. So she was quite devastated. Um, she then became kind of mentally unwell, and so I knew that at this point I had to intervene. And I'm blessed to know some really great eyelid surgeons, like Guy Masri and Ben Tele. I'm blessed to be able, especially my first year, to have a complication and call a colleague to get some advice and maybe have a referral, whatever. Anyway, so I was convinced to place some filler in the upper eyelids instead of fat, even though I wanted to use fat. The patient wanted filler, so I filled her upper eyelids. Okay. And, I hadn't done much filler in the upper eyelids. Well, it then blew up, absorbed the water from the inflammation of surgery, and basically doubled in the size that I was anticipating for it to be. So now she's sitting here with extremely puffy eyelids. Okay. So not great. It's really not great. And I don't have a lot of complications. Okay. And this is just a very special learning experience early on about, setting boundaries in what you agree to, and even if you think the patient is going to like that look, if it's not going to look good, just don't do it anyway. So now she ends up puffy, and so I made her like just be patient, wait at least a week. So she waited a week, still stayed puffy, and so at that point I then did a micro dissolve of the upper eyelid filler. And thank God, with just that one delivery of dissolver, it settled out into an absolutely beautiful result. So, I was tortured. She was tortured for, I think, 3 weeks it was. Uh, the number of photos that she had taken and the angles that she was taking them at were absolutely ludicrous. It was like 1,000 photos a day. And, mental screening also, that I learned that you really gotta lean in, ask people's motive. If they're unhappy in life, why are you unhappy? Do you think this is going to make you happier? Oftentimes it doesn't. So, God bless my mentors. That was one of the greatest learning experiences. The patient looks great, thank God, and she's a pleasant person. But that was a wacky, crazy experience.
That's a tough start because now that could throw you off completely. Like, wait, maybe I'm not good at this. Maybe I shouldn't be doing bluffs anymore. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, actually I never thought that. I never felt
Okay.
that way. All it did was teach me to look even closer at the upper eyelid sulcus to really assess for whether or not volume is needed or not, and to make sure to do it. And oftentimes now I will do volume augmentation to the upper eyelid sulcus and hollow without a bleph and just wait and see, do you actually need a bleph, or does that upper eyelid, stuffing the pillow actually contour your eyelid better? So
For what it's worth, I've asked a lot of surgeons who have been sued. I said, what did you learn from that? And they always say, I should have just trusted my gut. I had a funny feeling, but I thought I could handle it. And I'm sorry I ever did. And from now on, I listen to my staff. Usually there's yellow flags, maybe not red, but did you feel that at all?
there were yellow flags. She was in the entertainment industry. She wasn't, it was around the time of COVID. She wasn't booking things, and she felt like her appearance was contributing to it. And she was probably depressed, even though I didn't ascertain if she truly was depressed or not, which is absolutely necessary. And then it kind of manifested itself, after surgery. It was like glaringly obvious at that point.
Well, that's where you're starting to lose sleep. And oh my God, the risk that goes into all of that. Kudos to you. You handled it. Congrats. The last question, tell us something interesting we don't know about you. And if you don't have something, I want you to talk about your cat.
Yeah.
Hiking cat.
Things that people don't know about me. I'm Persian. I played the piano since I was 4 years old. I got a degree in finance in undergrad at the University of Texas Business School. And I have done surgery on a goldfish. Yeah, the thing. So I'm Persian. We get at New Year's. Persian New Year. We get gold. It's like the mass, genocide of goldfish. Unfortunately, because we put these little goldfish in a bowl, and they usually don't last more than a week. Our goldfish, he lived a great 4 years in a big tank before he got this swim bladder where he ended up upside down for weeks. And my mom sent me this YouTube video of someone aspirating the air sac of this goldfish. And so I Googled the cross-sectional anatomy of a goldfish, and I stole some supplies from the county hospital, and I stuck a needle in this goldfish, and I aspirated a couple cc's, and it sunk to the bottom of the tank, and I thought I killed it. And then a week later it started swimming on the bottom, and then 2 weeks later it started popping off the bottom, and 3 weeks later it was swimming normally, and it lived to be 9 years old.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah, and I took my cat Gaston hiking. He's 7 months old. I put him in a backpack. I try and make him do most of the human things.
So you guys, you have to see his Instagram. The cat is in a hiking bag, on his back, and the cat looks completely comfortable. I don't know how you do that. Cats are not usually that easygoing. Is he really easygoing, or you just are aggressive?
He is super easygoing, and I have been very aggressive with him since I got him when he was 2 months old. And I'll tell you, whatever these churus are, the little squeezable cat treat, it's like crack for cats. They will, if they're uncomfortable in some situation, just put a churu in front of them, and it is all good.
What is it?
I think it's called churu. It's like here, I have one right here. Actually, you must always stay strapped.
Is it like catnip?
It's like catnip. It's here you go. What is this? Oh, are we allowed to show brands?
Oh yeah, the cat stuff. Yeah.
There you go.
Churu. I never heard of it.
It's really, you tear it, squeeze it, and my cat hisses at every dog that it sees, and I think it's gonna swipe at every dog. But I just, you can put him next to the dog in this, and he'll be fine.
Oh, that's crazy. Okay, so everybody, if you want to check out Dr. Jalalabadi, his website is jalalabadiplasticsurgery.com, and his Instagram is Dr. Dr. Jaluva my body.
Jalove my body.
Oh, Jalove my body.
It was my first handle on Instagram in college or high school. Whenever we opened Instagram, it was just Jalove my body, like Jalalabadi. And then I graduated from medical school or residency, and I changed it to Dr. Jalove my body.
Well, the most complicated part about you is your name. The rest is going very well. Congratulations.
Thank you.
A good start. I look forward to watching you grow in your practice. Everybody, that's going to take care of it for us today. If you would please subscribe and give me a good review for Beauty in the Biz, I'd certainly appreciate it so we can grow the audience. And then if you've got any questions or feedback for me, please leave them on my website at katherinemaley.com, or you can certainly DM me on Instagram at KatherineMaleyMBA. Thanks so much, and we'll talk again soon. Hello, it's Catherine. If your practice feels busy but you're not seeing the growth you expected, there's usually a reason, and it's often something small that's quietly costing you revenue. That's why I offer a practice growth review. Now, in this call, I'll take an objective look at your patient flow, conversion process, and retention strategies to identify where opportunities may be slipping through the cracks. You'll walk away with a clear picture of what's working, what's not, and the few changes that could make the biggest difference. If you'd like an unbiased set of expert eyes on your practice, simply visit catherinemaley.com to schedule your review.